Hello and welcome once again to the Waters and Stanton video channel. My name is Peter Waters and my call sign is Golf 3 Oscar Juliet Victor. I've owned the Yaesu FTX1 Optima for nearly a year now, and I thought it'd be good to actually look back on it and how I found it, how the things I like about it, how I've used it, etc, etc. Particularly relevant now because there's been some price reductions, and also if you go onto our website there's some freebies as well, some free accessories with it. So I thought let's have a look at the both versions. You've got the FT1X field, which is the low power head unit basically, which gives you 6 watts out, or if you connect 12 volts to it you get 10 watts out, or the full-blown Optima, which gives you 100 watts on the HF bands and 50 watts on the VHF bands. And for that you also get a built-in antenna tuning unit. So let's take a look and let me tell you how I found this transceiver. With the compact size of the FTX1 Optima, it shows you how small a transceiver can be these days. A transceiver that not only covers all the HF bands but covers 2 and 70 SEMs. And I think here is an example of quite a potent station. It covers all the bands from 160 meters through to 70 SEMs. I can run up to 700 watts on all bands from 160 meters through to 10 meters, and 50 watts on 6 meters, 4 meters, 2 meters and 70 SEMs, which for many people is more than adequate. One of the criticisms of the FTX1 field was the weight, and yes, it is a bit heavier than some other transceivers, but it also has a 6 ampere battery, which I take the point. It makes it significantly heavier than other transceivers. But if I was going on a POTA expedition, or even more appropriate, a SOTA expedition, and I had the choice between an hour and a half's battery life and perhaps 5 or 6 hours battery life, I think I'd go with this. I don't think I'd be too worried about the weight. I'd be more concerned about how long the battery would last. And my experience of this transceiver is that you can easily get a day's operation out of the battery on this transceiver. I think that I would trade weight for life, if you know what I mean. This is the 6-hour battery that comes with the FTX1 field and also with the Optima. And very useful feature on the edge there is a USB-C charger socket. You can charge this battery in various ways, but one of the ways of charging it is to unclip it from the back of the FTX1 field and plug a USB-C lead in there. So what about the absence of a built-in antenna matching unit? Well, that's been levelled at the IC705 and of course the FTX1 field. Generally speaking, I tend to use resonant antennas, and if you're using resonant antennas you don't need an antenna matching unit. You cut that out. It's one less item to carry with you, it's one less item to have to fiddle about with. But I did actually try, I built myself a little ATU. This one here, I'll put the model number below the video here so you can see it. But I built that, and that works very well. That'll handle 10 watts. Another antenna or another matching unit that you can use is the MAT unit. MAT actually make a dedicated unit now for the FTX1, but I use the sort of general QRP MAT 10 tuner in a previous video, and I'll try to remember to put a link to that video below this video. And that's an automatic antenna matching unit. It works very, very well, and it does the job. One of the most useful accessories is this extension cable, and it gives you DC feed, the control feed, signal feed, etc. And it does enable you to remotely place the head in a different position, which is great. I mean, obviously for mobile use it's good, but even indoors you could have the head unit on a desk. Everything else clear. The main unit with the power amplifier and with the antenna automatic tuner, that's remote under the desk or in a cupboard or wherever it might be. So it gives you a nice clear desk. And here on the rear of the FTX1 field, you can see the connectors there, the two antennas, control, and also the audio connection there. And this cable that I showed you just now, here we are, this cable will be connected to those points there. Here's the cable assembly connected up to the back of the FTX1 field. This is actually upside down so I can get the cables at the front for photographing. I would point out that Yaesu didn't mark the VHF and HF cables. There's no label on there. So remember that the thicker coax cable, the thicker BNC cable, is the VHF UHF cable, goes into the appropriate socket. The thinner cable is the HF cable, and that goes obviously into the HF socket. So do remember that when you're connecting a remote cable. Of course, there is a tendency these days to have detachable heads. ICOM's flagship radio that came out around about 9 months ago now has got a detachable head, and it clears the deck. It clears the deck and gives you more room to operate. Here I've mounted the radio on my desk where I do all the video editing, and as you can see, it takes up very little space at all, and that's a good demonstration of how you can detach this head and make use of it, even at home indoors where you haven't got room for all the gear, but you've got room for effectively a control panel. One tip I would give you is that if you're using the FTX1 and you've got the Optima, keep the battery plugged into the back of the head unit if you're using it remotely, because the DC feed from the Optima not only will power the head unit, but it will also charge the battery. If you're using this as a portable unit, so you may have this as the FTX1 field, or you may have detached it from the Optima. All connections are made to this unit. You've got everything you could possibly need. You've got RF connections on the back, you've got your mic sockets on there, you've got your CW socket there, there's another auxiliary socket on the back if you're going to use a separate antenna tuner unit. On the other side you've got the SD socket, and then at the front you've got two very good loudspeakers, so it's all self-contained. One of the useful features in the menu system is that the settings in yellow indicate the default settings. If you change any of those settings, they turn white, so you can very quickly see whether you're in a default setting or whether you've actually deviated from the default. I found that the microphone that came with the radio was pretty good. You've got the usual up-down buttons at the top there for changing frequency. Then at the bottom you've got 4 buttons there which are programmable. I programmed 2 buttons to change bands up or down, and I found that quicker and simpler than actually using the buttons that are on the top surface of the front panel. Because of the reduced acreage on the front panel, there's a row of buttons on the top surface. I tend to just use 3 buttons there: the position for selecting bands, position for changing mode, and also the narrow wide button. There's other buttons there that control memory, etc, etc, split frequency and so forth. You tend to remember where the buttons are, because with the front panel facing you or sloping like that way, you can't actually see the top buttons, but you get to know where the buttons are, and that for me that works okay. Incremental tuning is taken care of by a button up there on this control here, and RF gain, if you just press the volume control briefly, you'll see a yellow line come up there. You can adjust the RF gain, and then we'll go back to audio control. Same on the other side, and if you're operating on FM or AM, you can also bring in a squelch control. Now, one of the big plus points for this particular radio is you've got dual receive. At the moment, this is this left hand side is on 2 meters. There's an FM broadcast station. There's an FM station here, local FM station that you can hear. And on the other side, I've got 40 metres. Unfortunately, the band is not. There's not much on the band at the moment. Oh, there we are. There's not much on, but that's 40 metres, and that's 2 metres. And you can have both on at the same time if you want to. Get confused, but I do like that. The fact that you can be monitoring the HF bands, or listening to the HF bands, or operating on the HF bands, and you can have 2 metres on as well.
That's the latest news update.
You can have the squelch on so that you've got no background noise. It's handy if you've got a local club frequency or local repeater. You can keep check on it. You just have the volume turned down a bit or the squelch turned up, and at the same time be listening on the HF bands. And the ability to monitor 2 frequencies, I think, is a very good facility to have. I'll give you an example. I'm very interested in aircraft, and we're only about 5 miles from Southend Airport, and so I very often have one channel, usually the left channel, set up on Southend Tower or approach or radar frequency, something like that. Put the squelch in so there's no background noise, and if there's any activity I hear it. And actually it's quite sensitive because I can actually receive Stansted Tower and Stansted Approach, which is nearly 40 miles away. So there's no problem with sensitivity on the VHF side for certain. How about the menu system? I know 1 or 2 people are interested about the menu system and how easy it is to operate, etc. To get into the menu, you just hold this button here, and that brings up the menu. I can then navigate the menu system by rotating this button. I think you can just see the light square being selected, and probably one of the things I would normally want to do is to be able to trigger the automatic antenna tuner, which is there. Well, so I've clicked on, or I've turned the dial here, so I've selected that. If I press it now, you can hear that in the background, it's on the other desk. That's the antenna tuner tuning. You can come out of that and I'm ready to go. Suppose I change frequency and I'm further up the band. Well, that button there will remember the last menu item selected, so I just press this and the tuner's tuning again. So that's quite a handy way of navigating the memory or the menu system. I find that quite good, and I think that's quite an acceptable way of navigation through the menu system. And if I hold this button in again, up comes the menu, and there's several layers menus there. This third menu takes you into settings for the radio, etc, etc. So it's quite a comprehensive and easy to navigate menu system, and also very quick to find what you're looking for. Finally, how do we control selectivity, bandwidth, notch filtering, all that sort of thing? Well, there's a little subscreen. Let me show you. If I press this button here, with this control here in, for a second or so, up comes this subscreen. I think you can see it on the screen there, and I can select IF shift, bandwidth, etc, etc. So that's very handy. You can do that very easily just by holding that button there and then just switching it off again. How neat's that? So in summary, the Yaesu FTX1, whether it be the Field or the Optima, what do I think of it? Well, I've used it now for around about 12 months and I really like it. It's nice to have a transceiver that functions both as a base transceiver and also one that lets you operate portable. And the reason I say that is because with these modern day transceivers, there's lots and lots of things to remember, lots of different buttons, different memories and so forth. And if you've been through the winter with your radio in the shack, and then you get your other portable radio out when the summer comes or spring comes, and you think, oh gosh, I can't remember how to do this, how do I do that? You have to sort of start to get the manual out or look it up on the internet and find out. The beauty of the FTX1 Optima is that you've got basically the same transceiver whether you decide to operate as a base station at 100 watts or to go to the top of a mountain or to some park with 6 watts or 10 watts. You've got exactly the same transceiver. It's a transceiver that you're familiar with. So I think that for me is quite an attractive feature. As a transceiver, I think on the HF bands it seems to work pretty well. I got no problems with it at all. There's nothing I've come across really which I think, gosh, that could be improved. There's obviously a limit of the number of buttons you can have on a transceiver like this because there's not enough acreage. So you've got to have some buttons on the top, you have got some buttons which are multi-function, and of course you have to dip into the menu system a bit more because there's just not enough space to put all the buttons on there. So that is something which you have to bear in mind, but I don't really see that as much of a disadvantage because once I've set the transceiver up for CW or for SSB, I don't really need to make any adjustments. I might need to adjust the power, which I can do through the menu system. I might need to adjust the keying speed, which again I can do through the menu system. And in fact, by the way, when the menu system is up on the screen, you can still operate the transceiver. So if, for example, you're on CW and you want to adjust the speed, depending on who calls you and what speed they call you, you can very quickly adjust the speed, no problem at all. So I think that's a good feature. Being able to actually receive 2 bands, I think, is a tremendous advantage. To me, that is something that really stands out as it's nice to have. You feel homely with it. It's nice to have, and also the fact that you've got a transceiver that covers the basic radio spectrum. I know it doesn't cover the LF bands and it doesn't cover the gigahertz bands, but basically it covers the bands that most ham radio operators are likely to operate on. I've been using this radio now for almost 12 months and I've had no problems at all with it. It hasn't let me down at all. I've operated it quite extensively for portable operation, but also I've used it extensively for base station operation, driving an amplifier, and there's no issues at all with it. And once you sort of know where everything is, and like everything else, you know, you think, where's this button, where's that button? And once you suss all that out, it's fine. And I always download my manuals onto my iPad so that I can quickly find out something. To be honest now, if you want to find out a particular thing, a particular item to do with this radio, or in fact anything else, the quickest way to find it now is to go onto ChatGPT and just key in the question and it comes up with the answer. It's that quick. So there we are. But I have enjoyed it and I still carry on using it. To me it's a great base station, it's a great portable station, it covers all the bands. I'm not a great VHF enthusiast, but if I want to go on to the activity nights on a Tuesday, on the appropriate dates, I can go on 2 meters or 70 SEMS. I don't have an antenna for 4 meters at the moment, but I have heard a few signals on 4 meters. So there we are. Thanks for your support on this channel, it's much appreciated. Don't forget, I mentioned earlier in the video that we've got some great prices on these radios and also some bundle deals with some freebies, so check our website. In the meantime, also thank you for your support on this video channel, it's much appreciated. We've just reached 40,000 subscribers now, so we must be doing something right. In the meantime, you enjoy your ham radio, you take care, and as usual, I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.